Australian citizens, still the largest number of tourists coming to Bali. Consulate and Tourism Office encourage do's and don'ts. And viral Russian village in Ubud allegedly still operating despite being closed. Which Russian village is that? Well, Parq Ubud, of course, and talked about that a lot in, January. And it's in the news again. So stay tuned for details on these and other stories. Selamat pagi. Welcome to the latest news from Bali and Indonesia. This is March 16th, 2025, and my name is Bruce. And what is the weather like here in Bulang? Well, in Singaraja anyway. It is 28.7 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is all the way up at 87%. And the wind speed is 6.4 kilometers per hour. And heavy rain yesterday, and that's all I'm going to say about the rain. So I hope the weather is good wherever you are, and I'm not going to say anything more about the weather here because, well, you know how that goes. And in the last video, I said that I had a major change coming in my life, and so I'll just get to that before we get on to the first story. So starting today, we are raising another grandchild. We have, of course, my oldest granddaughter, Zoe, who's 12, and we will have one of my grandsons, Max, who is 2. And my oldest daughter, Max's mother, got a job as a nurse working in the operating theater in the new international hospital down in Sanur, which is, well, not operating yet, I guess. And she's starting work tomorrow. So we've got the little guy here. And as you know, if you're regular here, I do videos every other day. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep that schedule. I'm going to try to. I like doing it every other day, but we're going to have to, my wife and I, figure out a new way that we're going to be living since we have Max here, because it's going to be a big shock for him. He's never been away from his mother before. And so the first week or two could be trying. We'll see how that goes. So if videos are not uploaded every other day, as usual, you know why. Just an update if you are a regular viewer here. Okay, so let's get into this first story. Australian citizens, of course, still the largest number of tourists coming to Bali. Consulate and Tourism Office encourage do's and don'ts. According to data from the Bali Tourism Office, in January, the number of foreign tourists from Australia was 139,577 people. February, 98,503, not unusual for the drop. February starts the low season. Seeing many Australians coming to Bali, the Australian Consulate-General in Bali is working with the Bali Provincial Government to encourage foreign tourists to respect local culture, laws, and regulations in Bali. Australian Consul-General in Bali, Joe Stevens, and head of the Bali Tourism Office, Joe Bagus Pamayun, met and discussed guidelines on what foreign tourists should and should not do in Bali. The Consul-General said, "I encourage all Australians to respect Bali's unique culture and follow the do's and don'ts for a safe and enjoyable visit." She further said, Australians enjoy visiting Bali as it was a place where the strong ties between the Australian and Balinese people were clearly visible. In 2024, there were more than 1.5 million Australian arrivals in Bali. Of these, she said, very few required consular assistance. This shows that the vast majority of Indonesians are enjoying a fun, safe, and trouble-free holiday in Bali. A trend we want to see continue, she said. She further explained how the Australian Consulate-General in Bali is working with the Bali Provincial Government to promote respectful travel behavior through social media campaigns and the latest travel advice for Indonesia on Smart Traveller, the Australian government's online travel advice. This Australia travel advice includes information from the Bali Provincial Government on what foreigners can and cannot do, and warns Australians that offensive behavior that does not respect local culture, laws, and regulations may result in criminal penalties and/or deportation. Bali is like a second home for Australians, and we encourage all international visitors to respect Bali's culture, laws, and regulations. And what about the Russian village? Well, Russian village back in the news again. Viral Russian village in Ubud allegedly still operating despite being closed. Parq Ubud, which was officially closed on January 20th due to land abuse, is suspected of operating again in secret. This suspicion arose from a post on social media, Detik Bali monitoring Saturday. Parq Ubud, located on Jalan Sriwidari, looked quiet during the day, but around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, local and foreign residents began to pass by and around Parq Ubud. A security guard was also outside on guard. A number of foreign tourists were seen entering and exiting the location. Some of them used online motor taxis. They got on and off in front of Parq Ubud Gate, while other residents riding motorbikes were prohibited from entering. The security directed them to another location by pointing north. Foreign tourists continued their journey north. There were also other security guards on the side of the road ready to give directions. Several times, local residents were seen leaving the location with hoodies and long pants. Carrying helmets, they walked quite far north. 2 construction workers carrying rocks were also seen leaving the lodging and creative hub. Another man was seen carrying a water pump machine. A nearby restaurant cafe staff member, who did not want to be named, knew Parq Ubud was closed, but he did not understand why the field was so crowded with people walking back and forth. It's closed. I don't understand who's coming in and going out. However, he said it's only been guarded outside since yesterday. Previously, it was guarded too, but inside. Another local resident, food seller, knows that the Parq Ubud has been closed since last January. According to him, when Parq Ubud was still operating actively and holding events, the road would be really congested. Many vehicles would be parked on the side of the road. However, now that it's officially closed, traffic conditions are smoother. However, the food seller said that it's not impossible that Parq Ubud is still operating. Maybe because there's still a contract, so it's still operating. Because there are still people going in there. If you bring a car, you're not allowed to go inside. Only motorbikes are allowed to enter. But yesterday, there were many motorbikes parked on the side of the road. So, what is happening with Parq Ubud? Is it operating secretly? I guess there are residences there, right? People were buying apartments and things. So when it closed for business, did that mean that people that had bought places there had to leave? I don't know. This is an interesting story which seems to be ongoing. Hasn't been anything in the news for almost 2 months now. But now that this has gone viral, let's see how long it takes before authorities address this issue. Okay, and Eid time is coming up, and so there are going to be a lot of people coming into Bali, a lot of people going out of Bali, and a lot of what are called non-permanent residents in Bali. And so what's happening with that? Video Kipem proposal appears. Number of non-permanent residents in Bali reaches 126,000 people. These are non-permanent residents in Bali, 126,000. Wow. This number, 126,000, is from 2024. The largest distribution was in Badung Regency, 65,000 living down there, and Denpasar City with 41,000 staying over there. In response to the high influx of immigrants predicted to increase after Eid al-Fitr, a proposal has emerged to reactivate the seasonal resident identity card, Kipem. Acting head of PMD, and Dukcapil of Bali Province stated that the registration of non-permanent residents can be done online or manually in accordance with the regulation of the Minister of Home Affairs number 74, 2022. This effort is expected to increase compliance with population administration and ensure that immigrants have official documents. The head of Bali Province Civil Service Police Unit, E. Dewa Nyoman Rai Darmadi, emphasized that his party will carry out tight security at Bali entry points such as Gilimanuk Port and Padang Bai to anticipate arrivals without clear destinations. In addition, data collection operations will be carried out together with sub-districts, villages, Babinsa, and other authorities to ensure that newcomers have skills and guarantors. He emphasized that Bali is not anti-immigrant residents, but this step aims to maintain social order and prevent a spike in unemployment that could cause social problems in world tourist destinations, such as Bali. And yes, a lot of people flood in here looking for work, and some look for, well, let's say money in a way that they don't have to work legally anyway. And there have been an increasing number of confrontations between people from other islands and local residents here. That is a problem that the government has been trying to take care of over the last 6 months or so. It has been an increasing number of confrontations. And so they may bring back this seasonal identity card. I don't know. I didn't even know that they had a seasonal identity card. Okay, and we've got Eid al-Fitr and we have Nyepi coming up almost the same time. And the other day I talked about that in terms of the port, the harbor at Gilimanuk. And of course, we've got people coming and going over down in Padang Bai, the other side of the island. I mentioned the other day, well, so what happens if they come in here and then they get stuck on the road when they're crossing over? When are they going to close the port? How is that going to work? Well, here's an update on that. Banyuwangi and Gilimanuk Port closed for 3 days during peak homecoming. Trucks prohibited from passing Pantura for 16 days. Check, what date? So the port in Banyuwangi and in Gilimanuk, they'll be closed for 3 days at the peak of the 2025 Eid homecoming flow. The operational closure of the port coincides with the Holy Day of Nyepi here in Bali. The closure of the 2 ferry ports connecting Bali and Java will be carried out starting on Friday, March 28th at 6 o'clock in the morning and will continue until Sunday, March 30th at 6 o'clock in the morning. This means that the ports will not operate on day -3 to day -1 of Eid. Passengers are advised to cross before or after those dates because school activities have been closed since the 21st of March. Well, they will be closed on the 21st of March. Meanwhile, state apparatus have been ordered to work from anywhere starting on the 24th of March. In other words, you can leave early. Kids aren't going to be in school. If you're a civil servant, you can work from anywhere. And so no excuse to try to come in at the last minute. From the 28th, 29th to the 30th, we from ASDP will not provide services or sell tickets, said President Director of PT ASDP Indonesia, Ferry Heru Widodo, at the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises on Friday. Residents who have already purchased crossing tickets on those dates are advised not to panic. ASDP will refund the full amount of the ticket purchases that have been paid. Passengers can also reschedule their crossings outside of these 3 dates. To facilitate the flow of homecoming and return traffic during Eid, ASDP has prepared 68 piers, 56 of which are owned by ASDP. Meanwhile, there's 203 ships operating. Wow, 59 ASDP ships and 144 regular non-ASDP ships. During Eid homecoming and return flows, ASDP projects that there will be 4,564,406 passengers that will use ferry service, or an increase of 10% over last year. Meanwhile, to facilitate the flow of homecoming and return traffic, Ministry of Transportation has implemented operational restrictions on freight transportation for 16 days, starting from Monday, March 24th until Tuesday, April 8th. Freight transportation restrictions are applied in both directions, and both on toll roads and non-toll roads. And so if you're ordering things online and from Java and you're expecting them to get here, you better order them like right now, because the transport for the truck transport for goods is going to be stopped during this period that I just mentioned. Okay, that is it for today. I've got to get ready to go and help take care of the little guy. Okay, thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Take care, and I will see you next time.